Chapter 10. Theo suffered through the rest of the day. During study hall, which was supervised by Mr. Mount, he was called to the principal's office. Miss Gladwell had prepared written instructions following Theo to leave an hour early and go to the jail. She had discussed Woody's situation with Judge Pendergrast, and they had agreed that Theo could haul in the necessary textbook and help his friend with his homework. Theo knew that the last thing Woody would want to see in jail was a stack of textbooks, but he said nothing. He left the school at 2 p.m., an hour before final bell. With some time to spare, he detoured to the courthouse, went to the public defender's office on the third floor, where he was greeted by the same grouchy secretary he'd encountered on Tuesday. "I'd like to see Mr. Rodney Wall," he asked without saying hello. She stopped typing, frowned at him, and said, "It's you again. Why aren't you in school?" "I'm excused and I have the paperwork to prove it." She lost interest immediately, nodded towards a closed door, and said, "He's in there." Theo knocked on the door and a squeaky voice said, "Come in." Rodney Wall looked young enough to be a senior at Strattonburg High School. He was a small guy seated in an oversized chair that dwarfed him. He wore round glasses and a scruffy beard that was probably an effort to make up for his lack of hair. He made no effort to stand or greet his visitor. "Can I help you?" he asked, but it was obvious that helping was not on his mind. Theo walked to the edge of the cluttered desk and said, "Yes, I'm Theodore Boone, a friend of Woody Lambert, your client. I'd like to talk about his case." "Oh, you would?" "Yes." Wall arranged his hands so his fingertips were touching. "Your mother is Marcella Boone." "Yes." "So is he planning to represent the Lambert boys?" "No, she is not. She appeared this morning just to get bail set and trying to get them out of jail." "Why is he sticking her nose into my business?" "Because you weren't there. I stopped by this place 3 times yesterday looking for you so we could talk about the case, and you were out of the office." "Sometimes that happens. Sometimes lawyers need to leave their office to go out and investigate. Why aren't you in school?" "I have an official pass from my principal, Miss Gladwell. Feel free to call her. She sent you over here to my office to quiz me about my clients." Behind his round glasses were 2 small eyes that glared at Theo without blinking. He did not stop tapping his fingertips together. "No, she sent me to the jail to help Woody with his homework. I'm on my way there now." "I've heard about you, kid. You're always hanging around the courthouse and bugging lawyers and judges and acting like you're some kind of real lawyer. You show up in animal court all the time and take real cases, which anyone can go down there. Now you're here poking around in my business." "Look, can we talk about Woody's case? He's one of my best friends and he is not guilty of armed robbery." "No, both of your parents are lawyers, so you should know that a lawyer cannot discuss his client's business with anyone else. It would be unethical for me to say anything about the case." Theo knew the guy was right, and he knew he shouldn't be there sticking his nose in another lawyer's business. But he wanted Mr. Wall to know that someone was watching, and so far that someone was not too impressed with the defense. Theo asked, "Have you met your other clients yet?" Mr. Wall gave an exaggerated sigh, as if greatly frustrated. "The answer is yes, and that's the last answer I'm giving you. I met with Woody and Tony about 3 hours ago, and now I'm in the initial stages of writing a case report, which I will review with my supervisor and not with anyone else." "Do you believe they're innocent?" "Look, Mr. Theo, it's time for you to leave. I have work to do, and I suppose you need to get down to the jail and help Woody with his homework." Theo backed away from the desk, mumbled a half-hearted thanks, and left the office. Instead of going to the jail, he headed north towards the edge of town, riding 10 blocks or so until he came to a strip mall. Daisy Lambert worked 30 hours a week as a hairstylist and another 30 as a waitress. Theo had never been to her salon, never had a reason to visit, and he wasn't sure he should barge right in. But the clock was ticking, in more ways than one, and now was not the time to be timid. In the reception area, several women of all ages lounged around reading magazines with all manner of foils and rollers and clamps affixed to their hair. Beyond them, 2 rows of chairs were filled with women getting worked on. In the rear, in the last chair, Theo saw Daisy, lost in a pile of thick orange curls and clipping away. With blinders on, he walked straight towards her, ignoring everyone else along the way, and said, "Hi, Miss Lambert. Got a minute?" Daisy was jolted at the sight of Theo in a place he would never expect him to be. "Well, sure, Theo," she said, lowering her shears. "Excuse me one moment," she whispered to her client. They stepped a few feet away and found privacy near the washing station. "Sorry to bother you," Theo said in a voice as low as possible. "Something wrong?" she asked, as if expecting everything to go wrong. "No, I'll just get right to the point. I know it's rude to talk about money, but right now, that's all we can talk about. I have $400. Some of my buddies are willing to pitch in some more. I'm going to ask my parents for a loan, and maybe my Uncle Ike, too. So how much do we need to raise?" Her eyes watered instantly, and Theo's first thought was that he hated to see Daisy cry. She said, "Oh, Theo, you can't do this, please." "I'm doing it, Miss Lambert, okay? And I'm not going to argue. Woody is my close friend, and he needs our help. Now how much?" She wiped her eyes, thought for a second. "I talked to his father, my ex, and he said he would try and borrow some money, but I'm not counting on it. He never comes through. I've got $300 in the bank, and I'm trying to get more out of my husband. It's tough, Theo. Times are tough for some people." Especially Woody and Tony thought, "Okay, great. So we have $700 that we can count on. That's a start. I'll get to work. I'll pay you back, Theo, I promise. I'm not worried about that right now. Have you talked to a bail bondsman?" "No, I was going to call later this afternoon. I have one in mind. Thanks, I have to get back to work." Theo had noticed at offices before. There were several of them on the side streets near jail, all shady low places with cheap rents and temporary looks. They advertised with large signs, as if the guys behind bars would simply look out a window, jot down a phone number, make a call, and get out. The bail bond business seemed to attract those with backgrounds in police work and private investigations, and was not highly regulated, nor highly regarded. Theo had looked it over online and had decided he would rather not do business with any of the 5 companies he'd found in Strattonburg. But there was no other choice. Judging from the online ads and from the looks of the office, AAA bail bonds seemed to be like the best of the bunch. He parked his bike near its front door and took a deep breath. He reminded himself that he was just a kid, and most adults were not rude or insulting to kids. He also reminded himself that he had just barged into the PD's office without an appointment and stuck his nose into another lawyer's business, and he had just invaded a hair salon where he had never felt so unwelcome. This could be bad. This could not be as bad. When Theo opened the door, he immediately hit with a wave of disgusting cigarette smoke. The battered reception desk was vacant. He could hear voices in the rear. Someone yelled, "Be there in a minute." Theo waited by the door, ready to bolt if necessary. A man appeared, a thick, rough, tough-looking dude in a shirt with short sleeves that revealed biceps as round as softballs. The shirt was sort of a light orange color, which would have been fine, but for the bright green tie knotted thickly at his neck. Blue jeans, pointed-toed cowboy boots, gun on the hip. He was scowling and seemed ticked off at the disturbance, but when he saw Theo, he broke into a wide smile and said, "Well, what brings you here?" "I'm Theodore Boone. My parents are Marcella and Woods Boone, both lawyers. You might know them." "I think so. They don't do much on the criminal side, right?" "That's right." "So why are you here?" "Have a seat," he said, pointing to some plastic chairs. Theo didn't want to stay long, but sat down out of courtesy. "Name's Sparky," he said. "No last name." Sparky seemed to be a fitting name for the place. "Yes, sir. Well, my friend's in jail, and I'm trying to arrange his bail." "How old is he?" 13. Woody Lambert. He's with his brother Tony." Sparky sat behind a desk and picked up some papers. He scanned a couple of them and said, "Oh, here it is. Armed robbery, 10 grand each. You'll need for me to write the bond?" "Sure, but the family has very little money." "Gee, I've never heard that before. Where's the family? Why are you here?" "The mom's working, the father's away. I'm here as a friend. Is it true that you charge 10% for the bail bond?" "That's the ticket, son. $1,000 each, and I can get 'em out in no time flat. Assuming I'm convinced they're good boys with no intention of running away." "Why is it 10%? Seems like it should be less when dealing with kids who aren't really capable of running away." "Oh, you think so? What do you know about the bail bonds business?" "Not much. That's why I figured. Look, kid, I've been doing this for 20 years, and I can promise you that every criminal is capable of running away. They do it all the time, and it's my job to go find them, grab them, and bring them back here and haul them in front of the judge. This is a risky business." Theo could not comprehend what he was being referred to as a criminal. He took a deep breath, uncertain of what to say next. "Is it possible to write the bond for less than 10%? Sparky grunted his disapproval and waved a hand at the windows. "Not here, but feel free to go next door or across the street. But it's a waste of time. Nobody can get your friend out quicker than me. I guarantee it." Theo hesitated and tried to look as pitiful as possible. Sparky glared at him as if they were wasting their time. Theo asked, "So if I bring you $2,000 in cash, how long will it take you to get them out?" "About an hour." Sparky stood as if he suddenly had better things to do. "Now beat it, kid." "Thanks," Theo said and walked to the door. And that's the end of chapter 10.